You're listening to the Gilbert King Elisa Show.
The man behind me is Cornell. I knew him from the 90's when he was part of a band called Soundgarden. He died less than 24 hours ago of an apparent suicide. It makes me think about time and how much of it we really have. What is it? Where does it come from? Time, we can say, is an illusion because we don't know how to save it and we really don't know how to use it. The thing about time is that we always think that we have more of it. So we treat it as if it's an infinite thing. But the thing about time is you never know when it's going to stop. Like the man behind me, he didn't know when his time was going to stop. And I'm sure he had a family. I'm sure he was married. I'm sure he had kids that thought that they were going to see him again. Well, yesterday they had that opportunity. Today they don't. And another way it makes me think about time in that we respect the dead more than we do the living. Now, I know that's not an absolution. But what I mean is, once somebody dies, they become special. They become revered. Their hits go up. Their likes go up. Their fans start crying for them. They voice their love for them in a time that they can no longer hear them. When they're alive, they go unnoticed. No one really remembers them unless they're in their daily lives or they're at a concert. But right at a time when the people who are dead now need them the most, they really, a lot of times, are not celebrated. We forget that we still have celebrities like Sidney Poitier still alive. We have celebrities like Bob Dylan still alive. But right now, no one is thinking about them. Yesterday, if you were looking for Cornell, you were probably looking for how old he was, how much money he had, and when his next concert was going to be. Today, if you're looking for him, you're looking for dead images of Cornell. You're looking for what was his net worth, how his wife looked like, and if he had kids or not. That's how fast time can change. Now, I'm not saying not to plan for the future, but I'm saying one of the hardest things to do is to live in the present. Living in the present is hard because you're constantly thinking and worrying about the future, either because you're worried about money or you're worried about the past, about what happened and whether results from the past are going to somehow influence the future. So the future and the past, both ways, make you forget about the present. Another thing I want to bring up about the death of Cornell is mental health. That's something that we neglect a lot about celebrities and let alone everyday people. But in this case, let's talk and let's keep it on celebrities because we're talking about Cornell. A lot of celebrities, they already have addictions. They find a life of fame and now they can afford a lot of things and a lot of relationships and a lot of drugs that they couldn't afford before, or they could, but not in mass quantities. This is not to say that this was his only problem, or this is the reason why he decided to take his own life. But mental health is something that affects all of us. And many times we're looking for ways to get that out of our system, whether it's the lyrics we write, whether it's the hobbies we take on, or the recreational activities that we decide to make part of our everyday life. Weakness is not really encouraged because it's not considered to have any value that can help or be productive. So it becomes that the only way that we're looked for, or the only way that we're shared, is if we are being productive. And before he was productive, there was a time in his life when he was just a regular person before he became everybody's hero. And once he became everybody's hero, he was still that person he was before he became famous. The only thing that he had now was a lot more money. That goes to say that we have to really respect our thoughts, because right now we're living in a time where we really don't give a chance for our brain to breathe, for our brain to relax. We have a 24-hour news cycle where from the moment that we wake up, you're being bombarded with news, and it's usually negative. So the first piece of information that you get when you wake up is negative. During the day, that stream that's coming into your inbox or is coming into your news feed from your email provider is usually negative. So that takes you through the day up until the time you go to sleep. And right before you go to sleep, you're usually bombarded with more information that is also negative. Either it's something that is really not affecting your life, or something that can affect your life, or something that you really have no control over, but they make it seem as if you don't have a choice, but you always have a choice. You get to decide what you ingest, whether it's physical or whether it's mental. Now, when you feel you don't have a choice, everything that's negative comes into your life and you let it inside, but that's you letting it into your life. That's how stress builds up. And once you have a lot of stress, the easiest thing is to get rid of it. It's just like if you've gained a lot of weight over a short period of time, it's very hard to get rid of it. Now, you realize that it was easy to put on, but it's hard to get rid of. The same way stress works. If you let everything into your life that's stressful, getting rid of it is going to be very hard. Getting it into your mind is going to be very easy. Getting rid of it is going to be very hard. It's like if you have a 3-day weekend, the first day a lot of times is going to be dedicated towards just getting in a space where you can detoxify from having a routine programmed into you. After that, you can really be alone with your own thoughts, and that's why a lot of times the weekend seems shorter for you than it really is. But everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. When you begin to feel like you don't have that much time, it's usually because you feel like whatever's happening in your life right now is not changeable. And if you feel things are not changeable, then that's when you start looking for other things to cope with. And if you have a history of this, or it runs in your family, some of it is biological, and you don't have that much control over, but at least you have to acknowledge it. This is what's happening. Once you acknowledge that something is happening, then you realize, I have to make a change, because if I don't make a change, that's going to be when I feel that things are spiraling out of control. A few months ago, when Prince died, I'm sure a lot of people said, wow, we lost a great musician. We lost a great memory that we had from years ago. Someone who we really didn't get to know. How many people can actually say they knew him as a person? Now, I'm talking about celebrities, but if we look at our own lives, there are people who are alive right now that have impacted our lives as much or more than most of the celebrities that are alive today. But do we take the time to honor those people? Do we take the time to look at those people and say, you know what? You've made a great impact on my life. You know what? I cherish the time that we've had together. You know what? I don't know if tomorrow's going to come, but while I have this time, I'm going to make you feel the impact that you've had in my life. But again, that's something that we really have to consider when someone dies, because once someone dies, whatever you say about them, it doesn't count, because they can't hear it. Now, I don't know if it's something that it's programmed inside of us, that we only remember things in a great way after we don't have them. But I know that right now there's someone preparing a great montage or speech for when Bob Dylan dies, or any of the great actresses that meant a lot to a lot of people at one point, that made a lot of people happy at the same time at one point. But right now, we don't know, or we're not even beginning to think, hey, we can do something right now. And the choice is easy. The choice is yours. Do I break from that cycle that I'm in right now? Or do I stay in this cycle where now, when everybody is grieving, now it's my turn to grieve? The reason why I don't like funerals is because it's a place where a lot of people go and are sad at the same time. And I usually feel that whatever I was going to do for that person that's alive, that's dead now, I already did for them that when they were alive. If I didn't get a chance to do it, then I am sorry for that time that I've wasted. But I can't really make believe that now that this person's dead, I did everything I could while that person was alive. And sometimes you don't have anything nice to say about the person who passed away. I'm not saying to make something up, but I'm saying if you have something nice to say, if you have something that you think the person needs to hear while they're alive, you can do it now. There's nothing stopping you. Life changes. Everybody gets busy at some point. But when you make that conscious effort, okay, you know what? I can wait 1 week. I can wait 2 months. I can wait 1 year. I can wait two decades before actually visiting someone or talking to someone. Then how important is that person really to you? Now, I'm not talking in a way that I'm pointing the finger. I'm talking from experience, because there are many people that I have not shown the gratitude that they deserve. But that's only until I have realized, okay, wait a second. There's nothing stopping me from contacting that person. There's nothing stopping me from showing that person how I feel. And there's nothing stopping me from letting my feelings be known. The only thing that's stopping me is the illusion that there's always more time. So I think that has to do more with the appreciation and respect that we have for life and time. So I think one of the most difficult things that we can do, but we have to challenge ourselves to do it, is to live in the present and to eliminate the things that really distract us from living. And I saw a quote once that said, the most important thing about life are not things. And I remember the movie Into the Wild, where the protagonist, he says, happiness is best when shared with someone. Now, you won't always find people to agree with you, but if you can find someone or be around people that you feel that are in denial. I'm not talking about people that you're around and they feel that the only way to connect with you is electronically or through a cell phone. Because what happens when you do that is that you're not really connecting with the person. You're connecting with the device. So the device can't live without your input. If you leave it there for a long period of time, the battery will die. Once that battery dies, you have to charge it up again. But if the only way that you can communicate with someone is through a cold computer or a cold phone, or in a way that is not doesn't really make the person feel anything, then that means that you have accepted that the best way to reach out to someone is with the least effort possible. Now, if you were born in a century other than this one, you might feel that, well, that's not a way, electronically may be the best method for me to connect with someone. But are you really connecting with someone if it's not by hearing their voice, by being in front of them, by making time to be with the person. If you're not making time to be with the person, what you're really saying is, I have something better to do. Now, that might just be a fact you have to accept. But if everybody is having that same opinion, then at what point are we really contributing to the human race? I feel sometimes that we're going to wake up in about 20 years and we're just going to look up all at the same time and realize, what happened to my time? What happened to my life? What happened to my friends? What happened to my family? What happened to the things I used to be good at? Because more than anything, I really feel that the internet has destroyed more people's connections and relationships and talents more than someone rejecting them and saying, no, you can't do that, you're not good at this. Just the fact that it distracts you from life. You can go anywhere right now and be walking in the street, even in Africa. I've been to Africa and people are on their cell phones just like they are in New York City, in Philadelphia, and in most places here in the United States. And that's just because we've accepted that devices are more popular and more entertaining than real life. And for many people, that can be the case. But I do feel there's going to come a time when people decide to eventually look up from that device. And once they look up from that device, they're going to have to decide and really come to terms and come to grips with, well, did I really contribute to life? Or did I contribute to being entertained 24 hours a day? Because one thing I've learned from being around the nursing home for a lot of months, even into years, is that people who are in the nursing home, the one thing that they wish they had more of is what you have right now, what we have right now. And that's time to say, you know what? There was a time when both of my legs were working. You know what? There was a time when I was surrounded by the people I loved. You know what? There was time where I could have made a change if I decided to. But if once they're in the nursing home and they're in a stage where they're really removed from life, it's just wishing at that point. It's just thinking what could have been. But I feel that there are a lot of people right now in their 20s, even younger, in their 30s, that before they even began the game of life, they have already removed themselves from the game of life. Something that you didn't see before until much later in life. So with that comes people finding alternate ways to connect. And those alternate ways to form relationships and alternate ways to communicate. Now, that's the way a lot of society is set up. If you go to apply for a job in person right now, many times they'll hand you an application and they'll say, well, take this application, go home, make an account on the computer, apply for this job, and we'll get back to you if we need you. So those skills, those people skills that we would exercise way back in the day are becoming lost. And it's funny because it seems like in a very short period of time, that way of thinking has overcome a great population. And with that, we lose a lot of things. For example, the ability to think clearly, the ability to think freely, the ability to innovate when your mind is not being distracted, your ability to rely on other people for help, your ability to find directions without GPS, without the computer in front of you, without knowing where you're going before you actually take the first step to get there. You also notice it when you go on vacation. When you go on vacation, there are a lot of people taking pictures of their vacation that they're on. Instead of getting to know the people around them, they're using their time to shoot themselves in a place doing the same things they did where they came from. Time that you can use to get to know someone else. You don't have to, but getting to know where someone else is coming from many times helps you understand more about yourself. If I go somewhere with a whole bunch of bags that are filled, it's going to be hard for me to bring back anything. With that being said, I've spent a lot of time observing. That's why I have a camera. I like to see what people are doing, which also makes me a lot of times be in people's moments, but also makes you see something that perhaps otherwise you would not have seen, or perhaps something that I want to remember. So it's a tricky balance because I'm not always present. And I also realize that if I'm going to tell a story or if I want to get a point across, this is the way that I have chosen to do it. With that being said, I do have a website in the making. With that being said, you can find me right now on Instagram. My handle is my name, Gilbert King Elisa, no spaces. I don't do a lot of work on Twitter. I hope to make a lot more videos like this one. And this has been my way to express myself to you in the clearest way I can. And that's just to talk to you without a script, just be as direct as I can. And with that, I'm going to turn this camera off because I want to live a little bit more in the present. Thank you. Have a good night. Appreciate your mind. Appreciate your health. Appreciate your relationships with others. And do your best.
This has been a Gilbert King Elisa production.